What's up, everybody? Dan Adams here with the Next Level channel. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are all staying safe, staying healthy, staying positive. This week on the channel, I am talking with good friend, number 711, Keith Curtis, and we are talking about our favorite places to ride. Let's get into it. All right, before we get started, Keith Curtis, this guy, both summer and winter, both on skis and on tires, just about anything that has a motor, and even doesn't have a motor. You've got quite the history. I know you and I have been talking before we were going to put this out about favorite places that we like to ride. Before we go, let's just find out a little bit about you. You've had a crazy season. I know we got a new addition to the family, so take it away. Tell these guys what you've been up to, and then we'll go into what we're talking about.
Cool. Yeah, so it's an honor being here. First of all, I've looked up to Dan for a long time. We're good buds. Always fun to get out in the snow with him and just go explore the mountains.
Yeah.
Whatever we're doing that day. And as crazy as the last year's been, it's been amazing too. My wife and I, Katie, had a son. His name's Noxon. He's 8 months old, and it's been a life changer in a great way. I've been busier than ever, and now I'm just even busier. So, and Katie's a great mom. She takes care of Noxon, and she says, if you need to go somewhere, you just go take care of it. So training is my life, and I'm always constantly training, hitting the road, riding with different friends, riding in different areas. And in that, I've just been able to experience a lot of different riding areas, the different snowpacks, the different terrain. And I think that's what we're going to get into.
Yeah. When Steven and I discussed who would be a great person to have on the channel, and just somebody that, it's funny that he said he looks up to me. The dude is a monster, and I'm kind of a midget. So while we're sitting here, I can kind of be on the same plane. But in terms of your career, what you've done on the racing side of things, both summer and winter, but we did talk about, what would it look like to have somebody on the show just talking about our favorite places to ride. And I know from you and I following each other through social media and just being great friends for this many years, both of us have had an opportunity to ride in a lot of different snow in a lot of different places, and a lot of places overseas, and a lot of places up in Canada, Alaska, all over. And so this was a perfect opportunity for you and I to share some stories, and it's something that I think that our viewers would be definitely into. They're the ones that are potentially sitting back, and every year they're so dang excited to just hop in the truck. And these are the guys that are making these 20-hour pulls to come out and ride in what a lot of areas you and I get to walk across the street and we're into. So let's break it down. And because we love lists, we'll talk about like our top 5, even though there's probably more than that. And we don't have to tell everybody all our secrets. That's for
we got to keep some secrets.
That's right. But let's just start with your number 1, and then I'll follow with my number 1 or our number 5, and we'll try to work our way backwards, right up to our favorite places on the planet to go well, whatever jungle that looks like, to go get some shredding done. So
because regardless, we're always trying to get in the jungle, the nastiest spot in wherever we end up.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so fun. Is, to me, my favorite types of training got to have a couple good things. They got to have really good snowpack, good snow quality with good moisture in the snow. And they got to have...
we're exiting Colorado right out of this.
I mean, it's pretty dry there. Lots of facets.
Lots of facets. Right on. Right on.
Granular, that's really, they doesn't compact well.
Yeah, Colorado, that we know from experience, buddy, the riders that ride in Colorado and how good they are is because the snowpack or the snow conditions that they're dealt with, you got to know how to ride.
Definitely. I mean, you're riding across the side hill, and if your ski drops into the side hill, into the bank, and you hit stumps and rocks and stuff, that means you have a lot of facets in your snow, and generally there's not a lot of water content in the snow.
Yeah, there's no base. There's a lot of times when it's a lump, it's a stump or a log or something like that.
And it's your ski going into that.
So, based on snowpack, if you had to pick like a riding area that stands out in your mind, that's not your number 1 just yet, where would that be?
We'll go with Revelstoke.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Revelstoke.
Yeah, put it out there.
Because Revelstoke has amazing snowpack. I've jumped off cliffs there on my sled late November. It's been some of the biggest jumps I've ever done. Late November.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm actually going to jump off this, and it's late November. Most of the time in most areas, you jump off and land on a pile of rocks.
Yeah.
But one storm of theirs equals like 10 of our storms.
Yeah, we get that coastal flow, right? They get a lot of moisture in their snow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of places that, well, we know from watching our friends from up there, and we see them late November or first part of December, and they're over the mountain bar deep, and we're still kind of kicking around rocks and things like this back home. So I can totally attest and agree that Revelstoke or nearly any of those areas, because you've been in quite a few. I've ridden in Revelstoke, I've ridden in Castlegar, I've ridden in Nelson, BC, I've ridden in a few of those, and then I've jumped up into Alaska, but you've also ridden Whistler, correct?
Yep.
Thoughts
Yep.
on Whistler versus Revelstoke?
Yeah, like Revelstoke, Sycamoose, and then Whistler. I gotta say I probably liked Whistler more than Revelstoke.
Okay.
Just
okay.
because of the unique features more than anything. Like Revelstoke has a lot of everything.
Yeah.
Cliffs and shelves and
you got a lot of above tree line stuff.
yeah, you got a lot of high alpine stuff, which
yes. It seems like
I generally go early season, and that's still a little bit sketchy up there. You still got to be a little careful.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge jumper anyways. I like the technical tree riding aspect of things, but where Whistler, they get more of a wet snowpack, but if you hit it at the right time, it's awesome because the snowpack and the density of the snow is optimal early season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they just have lots of way more unique features. It reminds me of more of like a Seeley and McCall more than Revelstoke does, I guess.
I got
as
you.
far as the terrain goes.
Yeah, and what a way to make that stand out in your mind in terms of favorite places to be. I mean, it's nothing like you've got really great snow, good condition, good group of guys, good sleds, all of that. But when you're riding around and it's a terrain park. It's like literally everything was set up by nature to just be all these little hits and hips and things like that. And I certainly agree that there are areas where, again, you and I like technical tree riding, but we're also sort of a victim of our sort of home environment. That's why we like home, even though we're not going to talk about our home areas too much. But we like that, and it's because that's kind of what we're accustomed to. I love going to where you've got like a blank canvas and you're like, oh wow, I want to go do this, I want to go do that, and there's all this really high alpine stuff, which is kind of intimidating.
Yeah, it is.
Because you're seeing all this stuff. We're so used to being floor to ceiling trees, and we're kind of locked into our little zones. When it opens up like that, it can get a little intimidating.
Yeah, it gets interesting up there. I jump a little bit when I can, as long as it's safe and I'm feeling it that day. But the high alpine and stuff, you can get as gnarly as you want.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched a lot of guys send it on certain hits and stuff.
We've seen the videos, man. There's some Canadian guys that are just
they
wild. Got some screws loose, man.
But the experience too, you talk about the experience going to Revelstoke, taking the ferry to Revelstoke. That's a really unique experience.
Yeah, I'm glad you added that in there. Like the adventure to get there, the travel to and from is really fun too.
Yeah, who you travel with, who you're meeting up with there, and that whole thing goes into the whole package.
Yeah,
for
nice.
sure. And Revelstoke's kind of, to me, it's like Revelstoke compared to Whistler. Whistler's more ritzy. For sure, I would have to say.
Okay.
Where that's the feeling and the vibe that I get.
Yeah.
And they got sushi restaurants and they got the ski areas right there. And then
it's kind of like the uppity. All right.
Right.
Every time I go to my hometown in Jackson Hole, I feel like I'm just a scumbag.
Yeah. Sure. The millionaires, billionaires.
The billionaires are pushing out the millionaires.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
I think Whistler's the millionaire, billionaire type thing. And Revelstoke, I feel like they're just behind a little bit. But Revelstoke's a really cool, unique town too.
Yeah.
They got, I think like the trains going through there and big rivers and more industrial.
When it's all just unique, not just the landscape, but just everything else there, and then the people included, right? It's just different from what we're used to back home. So that makes it nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We've talked about Revy. We've talked about areas up there in Canada. Any other areas up in Canada that stick out in your mind, or are we down into the States now? And what's next?
Yeah. I think that covers BC for the most part. There's a lot of areas I haven't ridden in BC.
Yeah,
it sounds like you've ridden, I don't know. When I go to Revelstoke, there's so many zones within Revelstoke and within BC. I mean, hundreds and
Never
hundreds.
gonna have enough time or days on snow, huh?
Yeah. So that part's really cool, but we can make our way into the States and I mean, we'll just get right into it. I mean, everyone knows that I ride Seeley Lake a lot. That's kind of my go-to, especially early season. But when I say Seeley Lake, I base around Missoula and hit a few different spots from there.
Yeah.
Lolo Pass.
Seen lots of videos from Lolo.
Lolo Pass area, and then Seeley area, and then you go north into 6 Mile, and then you go north into South Fork up by Kalispell, Sioux Falls, and there's just a lot of really good snowpack in that area and a lot of fun terrain.
Yeah.
Why I like Seeley so much is because of the terrain, the shelves.
Yeah.
I love shelves. It's like the funnest thing ever when you can go. When there's waves and there's icicles too, there's got to be icicles. Icicles are something.
A lot of ingredients here to make up Keith Curtis terrain.
Yeah, I mean, there's
and
a
I'm
lot
telling you
to
from
it.
experience because I've ridden with him in Seeley, and it is unreal. Like everyone's level has to come up just to be at the level where you're just sort of volunteering as like the leader, and all of us are just sort of victims of what that's going to look like. So when he's saying shelves and it has to have icicles and really likes the terrain there, it's because it's about as hard enduro as it gets. Like there is some gnarliness there, but to guys that have been doing it a while, or for anybody that's out there like looking for that kind of challenge, I mean, you're right. It's an environment that is just, I mean, it has something for everybody, but man, you better be up to the challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about the hard enduro aspect. I mean, that's what makes snowmobiling so fun to me. Is like I said, I'm not a huge jumper, and kudos to those guys who send it. It's cool, but the hard enduro stuff is so challenging, and I love the short technical sections that make you work for every square inch that you go up. And like Seeley, one of my favorite zones has a shelf. We call it's like a 5-step series. So a shelf or waterfalls at the bottom, shelf, like another. Like wall, another shelf, another wall. So I mean, it gets crazy, and there's these little pathways that you can take through these shelves to go up or come down. And it gets so technical and gnarly, and if you're not on your game 100%, your sled's rolling down. Generally, it stops at that shelf.
That's where the shelf comes in,
but,
right?
I mean, it gets hairball, and it's super fun.
Oh man, I love it. I love hearing about it, and when it's so funny to listen to him to talk about a wall, because you guys all see him, like a wall to him is third cat track at the Jackson Hill Climbs, which you guys have either seen on TV, been there live to watch it. I have been up on the hill, rarely get to put my hands on Keith's snowmobile because he's never getting stuck. He's usually going by me at 80 miles an hour. But when we talk about walls or waterfalls and things like that, well, I would just say that his idea of a wall or waterfall is probably a little bit different than most riders that are out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the vert.
I know you do, man. And always on a 155, which maybe not a lot of people know that Keith, he likes to keep all of his stuff. So his race sleds as well as his backcountry sleds, he keeps those setups very similar, which makes a ton of sense. And you guys had seen so much of how he races, of how he rides in the backcountry. Very loose, very fast, very away from the snowmobile, using his height as an advantage. And we see that both on the race course and in the backcountry. So setups being nearly the same, but you guys know that, I ride 163s or 65s. Heck, I've built a 174 before. All of these ideas of like ways to cheat to go up the steep stuff. He's doing this on a 155. So pretty awesome in terms of the sleds that you're doing all of this stuff with. So, all right, so Seeley Lake. That area in there, I love that whole idea, Lolo Pass. I've seen plenty of videos from there. Let's bounce around again. Where's the next one?
So to back up a little bit, the 155s are just, they're so fun. They're so nimble. They're so responsive. They're more of a challenge.
That's very true.
You start going longer track, and then you're just giving yourself a handicap.
We're going to get Brent and everybody on board with this
Brent, one of the biggest cheaters I know. He's not only getting long tracks, but he's also lighting the sleds up. For you, Brent. But all right, next area. So let's dive into McCall. Let's talk about that whole scene there. The whole package.
One of my favorite zones for sure.
As Monroe says, the Pillow Factory.
The Pillow Factory. Yeah. And where the original jungle, I think the original jungle came.
That is the original jungle.
Yeah.
That's the McCall jungle.
From the videos of the drainages, the creek bottoms, the technical trees, and then from my experience of riding McCall many times, lots of Polaris demo tours, lots of just going there to film with Phil Wybar and 208 Productions back in the day. When the snow's right, which most years it becomes right, some years a little different from others, but when it's right, again, terrain park. Just the bumps and the cool hits everywhere, and there's just something there all the time. Wherever you look, you're like, oh, there's another feature.
Yeah, you can pretty much jump off one pillow and there's the next pillow, and you just pillow, 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 pillow. And then they got the shelves and they got the steepness, and and another thing that makes a good riding area to me is not having big exposed mountains where you're on these specific zones. I think that's what's cool about McCall and stuff, is there's lots of stuff within the jungle. It's a short, steep pitch. Whatever, if it's 50 yards or 10 yards long, it gets difficult if it's straight up and down. So you got the shelves, and then you're kind of less exposed in that really playful terrain, and not to mention you got the massive boulders that act as anchors for the snow. So when
Yeah,
it's easy,
I'm kind of glad that you brought that in there, because there is a lot of areas that I think both of us would put into our sort of top 5 of riding areas, but there are, I mean, not that we're going to talk about my area too much, but there is a lot of exposure. There's a lot of really fun zones, but you always have that big exposure sort of lurking.
Yeah.
And McCall is one of those for sure, where it's, you can go get into the thick, steep, technical, challenge the holy heck out of yourself without this big shadow of a mountain on one side or the other of you, potentially putting you into a lot of danger. And that's really important in terms of, well, a favorite riding area.
Right. And you can get, like Cody's taking several people out, 10 seconds they're stuck from the parking lot. And that's kind of cool too. You know, a lot of areas where I ride close to Dillon, we have a 8 to 10 mile trail ride.
Fair amount of, yeah.
And that's just how it is, which I don't mind bombing down a trail either. It's kind of fun for racing.
Well, everywhere you go is training or something,
it's like,
right?
I got to race down this trail.
And I'll tell you, from going down the trail with him, he will beat you down the trail. It's just the way it is.
We had some good trail racing going in Colorado.
We really did.
Kyle's right. He actually did pass me, but I thought he was totally going to blow a corner and take me out, so I just let him go.
The stories are kind of endless, you guys. This is fantastic. Another component to McCall that you and I discussed before we started filming was just the whole the life there. And when the snow melts, all the other things that, you know, I know that we share like a passion for surfing behind the boat. We share a passion for mountain biking. We share a passion for dirt biking, some of that stuff. Like, that's the other component to some of these riding areas that put it on sort of a top 5 of like these all-time places to be.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I mean, McCall, it's got the whole package. It really does. And Katie and I've talked about moving there more than once, for sure. The people
for all your
great.
residents to McCall, you better look out. I mean, there it is.
But yeah, from the awesome people being in McCall, from Jack being there with Carl Cycle Sales, close, a couple hours from McCall, and like you said, he's the wizard.
He is the wizard.
He's the wizard, and you got a great dealership there. And anyways, McCall, you got fantastic snowmobiling. And then once the snow melts, you got the lakes, and you have amazing dirt biking, you got mountain biking, you have ski areas.
You got hiking, you got everything.
And
then you got a city close by. I mean, there's things like, just crazy, right? How there's like, it's checking a lot of boxes.
And the layout's cool too. You got some nice restaurants, well, really nice restaurants actually. Yeah. So it's got a good whole package to it. It's
all right.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, before we finish up, we got to jump across the pond, because we have both been over to Russia, and we've got to put a snowmobile on something that was, 6,500 miles away from here.
Yeah.
And we both remember those flights. But tell me about, because I've been there as well, tell me about Irgaki and what your thoughts were, and then even Priscovi, right? Because that's, or did you go to Priscovi?
Both, Irgaki and Priscovi, yeah.
So I've been to both those zones as well. One versus the other, just in terms of overall riding, because there's a lot of people that they may never get a chance to go there.
For sure. And I've spent more time in Irgaki over Priscovi, but and of course, the year that I went, Priscovi had kind of a low snow year.
Yeah.
But I would say that I had more fun in the Irgaki terrain.
Okay.
Just because it seemed like there were some more features and stuff. But like I only got to ride Priscovi for 2 days.
Okay.
So, but the scene is cool. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, 6,500 miles away. It's the craziest feeling ever. And Irgaki's got a little nicer accommodations, of course.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts?
I've been to Russia 6 times. A lot of those for work, right? Teaching clinics over there. So I've been to Priscovi 5, and then went just to Irgaki the 1 time.
Okay.
Had an absolute blast, and I think that, like we were just talking about in terms of 5, or these amazing places that we go, a big stretch of that is the adventure to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, how many planes and bus rides and sprinter vans, and just so much of being over there, the big labor on you and taxing on the body is just getting there and coming home.
So what do we have for a flight? We had
38 hours of
38
straight
hours.
travel.
Travel.
It's a lot.
And you get to, what's the town that you fly into before
Krasnoyarsk.
Krasnoyarsk. And you got a 7-hour drive from there to Priscovi in a van.
On a road that, well, as I could describe it, it would be like, for those of you that have been down the Grays River Road, take that for 7 hours, and I think you would know. Washboard and, crazy.
You can't sleep very well.
You can't sleep.
No.
Yeah. Part of that because you're excited, especially on the way there. You're like, what am I going to do, and what's this going to be like? And then again, who are the riders? And there's a lot of really passionate mountain riders, and over the years, it's really neat to see a lot of these riders really stepping up. I mean, there's some riders over there that, I mean, steep technical trees and just hopovers and bow ties and all the gymnastics that it seems like that we're doing these days.
Yeah.
These guys are just continually stepping up to that
Totally.
level, and so we're seeing a lot of those mountain riders really starting to excel.
They're getting really aggressive with it. And
Wow.
then not to mention, you know, you have places like Cook City. We can touch
Oh,
base on
man.
it because it's a big destination for a lot of people here in the
Midwest, I mean, that's kind of their
Right.
closest.
And West
riding.
Yellowstone and Cook City.
Yeah.
So West Yellowstone, it's far from my top 5. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it's fun. You can go find some stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of facets in the snow for
Yeah,
sure.
there could be,
it's
for
really
sure.
dry. You don't get a really solid snowpack.
Yeah.
That's one of those areas where you're sidehilling across the slope and your ski's probably going to dig in.
Yeah.
And higher likelihood of avalanches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Cook City, I actually went there this year, late November, and it was incredibly good. The first storm that rolled through, they got a lot of moisture in their snow, and there was 4 to 6 feet of snow in northeast facing aspects.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, good moisture in the snow. I think 12 inches of moisture and 48 inches of snow.
That's pretty
So
decent.
like it was
Yeah.
good terrain. You got to be careful though. I mean,
That's one of those as we talk about exposure, right?
exposure.
Yeah.
Cook City. I mean, yeah. Long story short, I got caught in an avalanche back in 2008 in Cook City, and my riding style has changed since that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just got to be really careful about open slopes there because it's fairly unstable. But terrain wise, you can find some fun stuff in the trees, and it's kind of cool because you drive through the park and you reach Cook City and it's the end of the road. So it's kind of a cool destination to go to. The town's full of snowmobilers, so I like the feeling and the atmosphere when you get there.
Yeah, the vibe is really neat when you go to those towns that are specific around snowmobiling.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what they do, so it's in their blood, right? Everybody's DNA is kind of routed the same. So.
Yeah, but I have a lot of people asking, they're like, what do you think of Cook City, West Yellowstone? I'm like, well, I think you should dive a little bit further in and drive the extra 2 or 3 hours and go to a place, you know, around Missoula or go to McCall or check out your range. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea, is that for people that are traveling out, I thought this was such a good topic for you and I to just not only share some stories, and I know we've got a ton of them, fill up way more than what we're willing to put out there, although I think people would listen to it because we've got some good ones.
Oh yeah.
But I thought it was interesting to hear your thoughts, because I know you've been in a few other areas that I have not. I know that if we were going to talk about our number ones, we talk about back home, and we'd kind of keep that as general as we could. But you know, I have to say, with my riding areas specifically, like you guys know, and a lot of you probably been to Togety. You know, I've got like the south end down in Afton. We've literally got the entire Wyoming range. So from the Grand Tetons, that's kind of the big rock, that's Jackson Hole, and everything else, as you follow that thing north to south, as you run down that, the amount of riding zones that are in there, much like to your comment about Revelstoke, how there's so many little other areas where it's just a pull-in. There is a ton of that in our area too, and that's why it's such a popular area. But what it is it's got something for everybody. It's terrain for just about everybody. You know, Togety is a popular riding area for a lot of you, and it's because, you know, you come out and you're trying to get your legs back under you, and it's got some flat, you know, intermediate beginner terrain. And then if you really want to go get after it, you can certainly find the jungles of Togety Mountain and that area there. Lots of different places. And then as you move further down, Alpine, Grays River, some of those zones, I mean, I have found the steepest, deepest jungles that you could imagine in those areas, and I know you have as well in your local zones.
Yeah, there's a lot of country in the Salt Range and Wyoming Range in that area. And something we had talked about. So generally, typically early season, I like to ride around Missoula a lot more because the snow is a lot more dense and there's a lot more moisture in the snow, so it doesn't take as much snow to make a good base. And so the snow is better in those areas. I can ride harder and not destroy as much stuff in those areas. And then once the first good thaw comes, you know, generally end of January, first part of February, it gets really warm. Everything settles. Everyone thinks the world's coming to an end. But then it settles, it snows over the top of it, it gets really good. I start riding around home a lot more. Around Jackson and Jackson, Montana.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the Beaverhead Mountains and stuff. And it's generally early season, it's pretty sketchy. You got to watch out. It's bony. Not as much moisture in the snow, but after that thaw comes through, I start riding there a lot more because it's got a good base and you got fresh snow on top and you can start playing in those areas.
It's awesome, man. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure for me. Obviously getting to hang out with you this last week in Colorado, get to do some riding. Really, really excited for you and your new addition. It's just awesome for you and Katie. I think that while you guys are going to see the second World Championship hill climber, it's going to take a minute, but guaranteed that this guy's already working on the throttle thumb and everything else. Congratulations on all your success. This was a really good. This is fun. This is a great topic. Hopefully, you guys really like this video. Let's remember that. We want to know where your guys' favorite riding areas are, and even though you and I were talking about our favorites, we're going to be relatively vague on where to go next.
Right.
And maybe something like this video was the best snow dance ever. So you guys remember, all of your trucks, all of your trailers, all of your sleds, you have to clean them like crazy right now, because you guys all know what happens when we clean all of our stuff. That's when we get weather. So that's our best snow dance that we can do. Leave those questions and comments below. You guys remember to help support the channel, help support this man right here, and let's subscribe to the Next Level YouTube channel, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, Dan.